Right off the top at 11, clerks across the country still working on final vote counts. What's clear right now is that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. Thanks for being with us for 9 and 10 News at 11. I'm Adam Bartlemate. Transition plans are already in motion, and Trump's campaign team is now shifting into place for his future administration. So let's take a look at who's on the table for Trump's second-term cabinet. Susie Walz, Trump's 2024 campaign manager, will be his White House chief of staff. She'll be the first woman to hold that position. Other roles still under consideration: former WWE boss Linda McMahon is a potential for the Commerce Department, and Florida Representative Mike Walz being floated as a potential head of defense. Right now, the Secretary of State seat has a lot of contenders, including Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, and Trump's former national security advisor, Robert O'Brien. To understand what a future Trump administration could look like, it's important to not only look at his first term, but his 2024 campaign as well. Three major focus points during Trump's most recent campaign: border security, deregulation, and de-incentivizing foreign manufacturing, will likely be top of mind as soon as he takes his place in the Oval Office in January. Rocky Raschkowski, a former Republican majority leader in the Michigan House and now political strategist, says that while Trump will need to focus on those campaign promises, he'll also need to work towards unifying a sharply divided nation.
This is his last and only hurrah. So if he wants to go out on the top of the hill, he's going to make sure that he works for every American.
Trump will enter office with a majority in the Senate, and while some House seats are still too close to call, the most likely path right now will lead to a Republican trifecta in Washington. If things go that way, a trifecta could provide a clear pathway for nearly any policy Trump wants to push through. And now, looking back at Tuesday's results, President-elect Donald Trump's political comeback was seen firsthand right here in Michigan, where his vote share increased in nearly all corners of the state. With 99% of Michigan's votes counted as of Friday, Trump led Vice President Kamala Harris by about 82,000, or 1.5%, out of 5.5 million votes cast. According to the Associated Press, 78 of Michigan's 83 counties shifted towards the GOP or kept the same vote distribution compared to 2020. Trump increased his margin of support in most northern Michigan counties by around 2 to 4 points, showing the campaign was able to further mobilize conservative voters in already Republican areas. Democratic gains in some areas like Grand Traverse County were not enough to make up for their eroding support in more suburban counties downstate. Retiring Democratic U.S. Representative Dan Kildee, who currently holds a seat representing Flint, says that while his party is still trying to figure out exactly what caused the slip, he has his own theory.
Some voters who felt like they just wanted a change because they feel this general anxiety, economic anxiety, personal anxiety, whatever it might be. I know that seems like a bit of a psychoanalysis, but I really do, just based on the people that I talked to, this sense of uncertainty he was able to tap into, and we didn't have a strong enough answer for that.
Kildee's seat was up for re-election this year. He's being replaced by incoming Democrat Kristen McDonald-Rivet. Political analysts are still cautioning against making final conclusions based on current data, since votes and public opinions are still being reviewed. And following Vice President Kamala Harris's concession speech on Wednesday, her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, took the stage today with his own sunset speech. Walz urged supporters who are feeling upset about the loss to take care of themselves. The Harris-Walz ticket won Minnesota by nearly 138,000 votes, but he also addressed fellow Minnesotans who voted against him and Vice President Kamala Harris and said they deserve to be heard.
As long as I'm governor of Minnesota, we'll be a state that respects democracy, a place where we're proud of our civic debate and where we don't demonize people who disagree with us.
Walz has 2 years left on his second term as Minnesota's governor. There are no term limits for governors there, but he's not yet said whether he'll run for a third term. The Justice Department has announced charges against 3 people in a thwarted Iranian plot to kill former President Trump before the election. Prosecutors say Iranian officials last month asked Farhad Shakari, one of the men charged, to focus on surveilling and assassinating Trump. Shakari is still at large in Iran. The newly disclosed plot is believed to mark the latest alleged Iranian government attempt on Trump's life. The two other people charged, Carlisle Rivera and Jonathan Lodeholt, are American citizens. They were arrested in New York, accused of helping Iran spy on separate U.S. citizens of Iranian origin. U.S. officials have repeatedly warned Iran may try to kill Trump or his former advisors in retaliation for a 2020 drone strike Trump ordered as president. That strike killed a top Iranian general. Meanwhile, a state prison inmate is facing new charges for threatening to kill Governor Gretchen Whitmer. The Attorney General's office says Jihad Ahmad was denied parole in May and in response sent a letter to the governor's office. In that letter, he reportedly threatened the governor's life and to bomb her home when he was released from prison. He's facing a count of false report of threat of terrorism and faces another 20 years behind bars.
We're hoping to find none, and we're hoping to find just a small area that has some localized contamination that can be easily treated.
The city of Cadillac, with help from the state, is trying to narrow down the source of PFAS, or forever chemicals, found in Cadillac's industrial park area. The concern surrounding the source of those chemicals has been a hot topic since unsafe levels were found in a private well at a home in the area back in September. Cadillac Utilities Director Jeff Dietland gave a report to the local Development Finance Authority, known as the LDFA. They oversee the cleanup of the industrial park area. Dietland says people were concerned the source was coming from the industrial park area. He says from the testing they've done, they did find some levels of PFAS in the wells that were tested, but don't believe that to be the source because the levels were extremely low.
If you get an area of higher concentration, you can kind of backtrack and go from there and see where it leads you to. But right now, there's not enough information. We thought we maybe would find really high levels. We didn't. So that is a good indication to us that it's not a huge smoking gun out in that area.
Dietland says they'll do further testing of groundwater cleanup wells, and that, coupled with the state's testing of 70 homes in the area, is going to determine the course of action the city takes in the future. At the meeting, he asked the LDFA board if he can do more testing of wells for further investigation, and that was approved.
And we are taking you live outside right now to downtown Manistee, where it is a quiet but a cold overnight period. We are still talking about temperatures well below freezing into the weekend. We do have some rain chances to talk about as well. Full look at the forecast after the break.